So, we have been talking this month about our mindset, specifically our mindset that would include freedom. And that might be freedom from something heavy we've carried. It could be freedom from our own story that we hold on to tightly. It could be freedom from mistakes we feel like we've made, where there has been forgiveness and restoration. It could be learning to let go of the hard parts of that. Sometimes freedom is the best option to step into. And those of us who are children of God, we know that when He sets us free, we are free indeed. We don't want to carry around baggage or things that He has already forgiven us of. He has also given us the freedom to walk out of those hard stories or those circumstances, whatever it might be. Sometimes we need freedom from our own thoughts about all of that. That's where I want to spend a little bit of time today. And I'm excited because I feel like this is a topic that we've covered in different ways in the past, but there's a little bit more depth coming through in this teaching today, and I'm excited for you guys to hear it. I'd love to hear your comments as we're going along. I want you to think about the creation cycle for the sake of the review, which we all need. I need it as well. So the creation model, as you guys all know, I learned from my own coach, and it is the simple idea that our thoughts, whatever our thoughts are, the good and the bad, the ugly, all of it, that's what fuels our emotions. Okay, so when we're thinking a negative thought, we're going to produce a negative emotion. And those emotions are what fuel our actions. So you can see how closely related our thoughts, emotions, and actions are. And I even would take it a step further and say this feeds right back into our thoughts. So think through this model and you can put any thought into it and see how it comes out for you because your thoughts will always show up in your action. It's really interesting. It's scientific. I believe it's even biblical because when we take our thoughts captive, as we know to do, when we think on the things that are true and lovely and worthy of praise, then we're going to produce the emotions and the actions that we know we really want to produce. This is really important to keep at the forefront of our mind as we think, do we need to be set free from some of our own thoughts? It's a different angle of taking your thoughts captive because I want you to look at, are your thoughts holding you captive? Are there thoughts that you're on repeat with that you've not been able to break out of those cycle of thoughts? And that's holding you back from whatever it is that God has for you. Because our mental and emotional freedom is very connected, as you can see right here. Mental and emotional, super connected, a direct link. And whenever we think about what our thoughts are and how they're affecting us, a verse that comes to my mind, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. And this doesn't mean that we should only think good thoughts and then we're going to always have good emotions. But it is calling us to awareness that whatever we're thinking on, we are going to see that. And it is a very important reminder to all of us to think about what we think about. That's meta thinking, thinking about our thinking. The human experience, as we know, includes the good and the bad. Okay, we don't just live across the mountaintops. We experience the valleys, the mountaintops, and everything in between. That's a part of life, that whole range of emotions. And as we learn how to manage those, we develop more emotional resistance, which is what's going to help in this part. I would definitely contend for, let's start here with the thoughts. But we also can look at managing our emotions, which helps the entire process too, because our emotions, as we said, fuel our actions. It's important to go back here to the root and see what it is that's causing it. And I'm going to just throw this out there. If this thinking is new to you, you may think that your circumstance, someone else, or whatever it might be, is causing your thoughts, which I would agree that it can influence what you think on, but ultimately, it is your thoughts about the circumstance that has the most impact on you. You can take two people in the same set of circumstance and they're going to think through it probably a little differently. And from those different thoughts, be able to produce different emotions and different actions. You've probably seen evidence of this, maybe in your own life, maybe in others around you. But ultimately, we know that we can choose our thoughts, and we can also work on this emotional resilience piece so that we create safety in our own body for what we experience in our life. This is not sweeping anything under the rug. This is bringing it to light. This is asking for the Holy Spirit to show you what it is that you may be thinking on that you need to get freedom from. It is also asking the Holy Spirit to help you develop the emotional resilience to be able to manage your emotions better, to trust yourself, to process anything that you've left unprocessed, and to be able to move forward in your experience that's going to affect your actions right down here. So it's not about pushing an emotion away. It's not even about pushing a thought away completely. It's really about taking it captive, looking at it for what it is, and then replacing it. Replacing it with truth, replacing it with what God says about this particular thought you're having. It's not pushing it away. It's more about evaluating it. And then when you realize there's error in it, then find the truth to replace it. That's how we take our thoughts captive instead of them taking us captive. We renew our mind and we use God's truth to do that. I've used the analogy before of a car. When we're sitting in a car and we can allow an emotion in, it's kind of the same with our thoughts. We can think on that thought and we can decide how much we want to think on that thought. We can decide when we want to change that thought. We have agency over our thoughts just like we do our emotions. And I love to remind us of that because we don't want either one to be running the show. We want the truth and what God has for us to be where we're headed, not whatever our erroneous thought, repeated erroneous, or emotion is saying. So when you come to that place where you feel the need to take a thought captive, I would suggest writing it out, thinking on it, looking for the error in it. And I'm going to give you a new cognitive tool today. This is one I haven't shared before because this is some hot off the press study that's been going around, and I think it's going to benefit all of us. And that is talking to yourself. The thoughts that are rambling around, I always tell you, write them down, journal, download. If you're in the car and that's not safe to do, for example, here's another option, another tool. Say your thought out loud. And the reason is the way that our brain processes our silent thoughts versus our spoken language is different. So the thoughts that we feel like they're fast, they're fragmented, they're looping, maybe they never really complete the sequence that we're thinking on in our thought pattern. That is contrary to our spoken language. And when we actually speak it, whatever the thought is, first of all, it's going to feel a little awkward, probably, especially if you're around other people, but you can do this by yourself, right? What happens when you speak the same thought that was rambling, it's a little slower because you're articulating it. Okay. It also will be forced to be sequential because of how we speak. And I'm not saying every single thing anyone says is always sequential, but in general, we speak sequentially. It also helps to convert those fragmented little pieces of thoughts into linear verbiage. It engages the prefrontal cortex in a different way, and it helps you finish your thought pattern. It can even help you break a loop that you've been in. It helps you finish that thought and get clarity and maybe even an answer you've been looking for. Maybe it just simply brings awareness to the fact that there's some faultiness in your thought. Because this idea of auditory processing, which is what happens when we hear something, the auditory processing kicks in. When you actually hear your own thoughts through this different channel, this auditory channel, it gives you auditory feedback. And so you get to actually think on what it is that you're saying in a different way than you have been just by it rambling around in your head. This improves both your working memory and your error detector. Yes, we have error detectors. And so we actually are able to recognize flaws when we hear them in a different way than when we just think them. I hope this is helpful because I know it's so easy to get into a negative thought pattern or anything we feel like we've gotten stuck in. And some of these tools can help us to break free and be able to move forward into what it is that God has for us. We have a little time for coaching, and I am looking forward to what we may be able to process through today. As we consider what our thoughts are and what effect that they're having on us, it's important to remember that our mindset truly does fuel our emotions, and it shows up in our actions too. So therefore, if we can take those thoughts captive at the input right here at the beginning of this cycle, we can have a tremendous impact on what comes out at the end. And that impacts our day in and day out activity and actions as well as our life. It's definitely worth considering. It's something that we want to spend a little bit of time on and get free from any thought patterns that are holding you back and that are showing up down here or here, and you want freedom from that. And as I mentioned, allowing an emotion to come sit with you in the car, you consciously choose that. You have the agency to choose that. And when we recognize we have agency over our thoughts, over our emotions, it is a pivotal change to developing more emotional maturity and resilience. So don't let your thoughts keep you captive. Do the work so you can take them captive. You can renew your mind and have emotional maturity and resilience. It will show up in every area of your life. It'll be an upgrade. So I highly encourage doing this work. If you're looking for someone to help lead you through it, you can reach out through the show notes below.